Hi, I'm Keith Burley, producer of the Reef Aquarium DVD, a setup and maintenance guide, here to test the system using the All-in-One Biopellets in a NextReef reactor. This system claims to help reduce nitrates and phosphates in your tank while using only one media and one reactor. Phosphates and nitrates are two constant parameters that have to be kept in check if you are to have a successful reef tank. Phosphates will actually inhibit coral growth if the numbers get too high. With the All-in-One Biopellets, waste products from the water are converted into bacteria. These new All-in-One Biopellets remove about 5 times more nitrates and about 10 to 20 times more phosphates than regular biopellets. This helps keep the aquarium water clean. All-in-One Biopellets are made of a biologically degradable substance you don't have to discard once it's exhausted like other GFO products. This all-in-one media is consumed over time by probiotic bacteria that colonize the media. All you have to do is simply top off the reactor when it gets low. Before we plug in our All-in-One Biopellets reactor, let's check our nitrates and phosphates in the demo tank behind me. The nitrates look to be about 1, and the phosphates are 0.30. The phosphates in my demo tank have always tended to run a little bit high. Biopellets start to work in about 1 to 4 weeks, so we will come back in a few weeks to see how this system affects the nitrates and phosphates in our demo tank. The manufacturer recommends soaking All-in-One Biopellets for a period of 24 hours in salt or tank water before use in your reactor. This will ensure more uniform tumbling once added to the reactor. I've seen that the All-in-One Biopellets tumbled better after time in the reactor. All-in-One Biopellets are heavier than previous version NP Biopellets, and they require a higher flow rate to tumble the media. For example, a 185-gallon tank with a fluidized filter containing 2 liters of All-in-One Biopellets will require a minimal flow-through rate of just over 500 gallons per hour. However, you don't want too high a flow rate as the biopellets start to break apart. This will cause little pieces of biopellets to break off and into your tank and sump. These little pieces are not nearly as beneficial to your aquarium setup and can settle on your sump or tank bottom. Too little flow rate and you won't get the proper tumbling action. You want a gentle tumbling action that will not cause the pellets to break apart, yet still cause the media to constantly mix. The Lifeguard Quiet One 3000 I think is a nice choice for the setup. It has a 720 gallon per hour flow rate, but it also has this dial here on the front that will allow us to reduce or increase the flow rate, thus giving us more control. It's always best to start with a pump that is too strong, as you could always dial it down by a valve, or in this case, a setting on the pump. If you get a pump that's too weak, you won't get the tumbling action that you want. The reactor we are using here is the NextReef SMR1, or the smaller of the NextReef reactors. The only reason I didn't go for the larger size is that I have my sump and plumbing under my main tank, so I need to save space. The reason that I like this reactor from NextReef is that it is so dark it is difficult for light to get in. If light has trouble getting in, then algae will find it tougher to grow in the reactor. Okay, so your reactor is going great, but what about the bacteria that you're now creating in your reactor? Aren't there bacteria going into my tank? Yes, but keep in mind these are basically good bacteria as they eat nitrate and phosphate. However, there is too much of a good thing, so what I like to do is put the output of the reactor that has my All-in-One Biopellets and place it next to the intake of the protein skimmer. This way the excess bacteria gets skimmed out of the water. Also, this helps to skim fine particles of biopellet media that might break off due to over-tumbling. Some people choose to put a filter sock over the output of the reactor hose and collect any excess particles and bacteria this way. Now, I'm sure all of you noticed the time between this segment of the video and the first segment, which was 3.5 months ago. Many people using the All-in-One Biopellets are seeing results in as little as 2 to 3 weeks. Though my timing differed, the end result has been great. All-in-One Biopellets are most effective when nitrates and phosphates are in similar ranges, as the bacteria that consume the phosphate live off the other bacteria that consume nitrates. It turns out my nitrates were a little low as compared to my high phosphates, making the biopellets not as efficient as they are capable of being. So to get my levels better, I did two separate steps. The first, I added some Dvh Bio Grow 123 Marine. Biogro Marine is a three-step program that helps improve your tank's biological balance while reducing algae growth and helps to dissolve detritus that often builds up in the sump and dead areas where low water movement takes place in the aquarium. Before you dose, turn off your ozone and your UV sterilizer and keep them off for at least 24 hours. Dosing Dvh Bio Grow 123 Marine is very easy. Just approximately calculate the volume of your tank water, including your sump, minus the space of the rock. Take that number and multiply by 0.6. This will give you how many milliliters for the first dose that you want from each bottle. For example, my tank's total water volume is 235 gallons, multiplied by 0.6, so I dose 135 milliliters the first week. The biopellets work well with the Dvh Bio-Grow 123 Marine, so pour in the dose right next to the intake pump of the biopellets. Next, I dose once every week at 1/3 the amount of the initial dose. So you take your tank volume, multiply by 0.2. For my tank, I took the same 235 gallons times 0.2 and dosed at 45 milliliters once every week. What I really noticed fairly quickly was the new growth of coralline algae in the aquarium. I like the results from the first set of bottles I added and will definitely continue using this additive for the foreseeable future. Next, we had to bring my phosphate levels down, so I added this NextReef reactor using Reef Interest's PO4x4. Before we start, Aquarium Specialty suggests that you remove the foam pads from the reactor. You will control the level and intensity with the ball valve to dial in the proper flow rate for fluidizing the PO4x4. The name really says what this product does. It removes 4 times more PO4 by volume than other phosphate medias on the market. The advantage is that you don't have to use as much and it will last much longer than other bulk GFO products. If your reactor is at a higher level than your sump, it might be a good idea to add a flapper check valve in case of a power outage or when it's time to replace the media. For my aquarium, I added a little more than half of a 1,000 milliliter bag to the reactor. You want to start out with a smaller amount in the reactor and add more if you need it. PO4x4 is highly effective at removing PO4 from the water in a short amount of time. So it is best to bring your phosphates down to a desired level over the course of a couple of weeks or more. Rapid shifts in PO4 levels can stress out some invertebrates like sea anemones if you try to bring down the phosphate levels too rapidly. It is very clean and each bead of GFO is actually encapsulated in a polymer, so you don't have to wash it before putting it into use. Now, rusty looking water won't be entering my sump every time I change out my GFO media. Also, you don't have to worry about PO4x4 clumping together like other bulk media products commonly used. I used this ball valve and slowly cracked it open. I always want to be in control of this level, so I start up very slow. You will see just a very tiny level of foam at the top that I will not put into the tank. Now we crack open the ball valve a little more and get it to run so all the media is tumbling nicely. You don't need as strong a pump as you needed in your All-In-One-Biopellets, as the PO4x4 is extremely light and will tumble very well with a low setting. Your biggest worry is too much pressure that will cause the phosphate media to leave the reactor and go back into your tank. This is why it is important to get a good ball valve and to adjust it accordingly. I recommend tumbling the media in the bottom half to 2/3 of the reactor to help prevent any of the media from exiting the reactor. So 3.5 months ago, my nitrates were at 1 and my phosphates were at 0.30. Now my nitrates are at 0 and my phosphates are at 0.00. Now I have leeway to target feed coral food to my corals. After years and years of having high phosphates, I'm really excited to finally get a handle on the situation and feel more in control over the parameters in my tank. I look forward to a more successful tank and to be able to enjoy reef keeping much more thanks to All-In-One-Biopellets, my 2 NextReef reactors, PO4x4, and Dvh Bio Grow 123 Marine. If you have any questions about the products in this video or would like to order them, you could call 803-788-46 PO4x4 or visit us at aquariumspecialty.com.